Hi, I'm Jim Fielding, and welcome to Jim Fielding and Friends, a podcast where we explore what it truly means to live and lead with authenticity, kindness, and impact. Each episode brings together leaders who inspire me, people who lead with heart, break barriers, and redefine success. If you're looking for honest, insightful, and thought-provoking conversations, pull up a chair. Let's talk.
We can choose who we love. Nobody's letting go. Chosen family.
Hi, everyone. It is time, all my beautiful and kind human beings. It is time for another Jim Fielding and Friends podcast episode. I am so excited. I'm excited about all my episodes, but I'm really excited about this one. And honestly, I wish it is one that we could have done in person, but my dear guest today lives over the pond, shall we say. And so we had to do it virtual, but it's still going to be an amazing session. I am thrilled to introduce Oana Leonte from Unmatched. And I'm going to let her share her bio, and then I'm going to ask her a question about how we met and why she's on Jim Fielding and Friends. You're going to love this one. I know you're going to love this one. So welcome, Juana. I'm thrilled. I cannot wait for this. So happy.
I am so honored. Thank you so much for having me today, Jim.
Of course.
It's one of the best things that happened today, and I'm excited to be on the podcast. My name is Oana. I'm the founder of Unmatched, which is a branding strategy community platform. And I founded it last year after living my 20 plus year career in big brand driven corporations. It's been a whirlwind since then. I've worked for some big brands that we have in common, like Disney, for example.
Yes.
I've worked in entertainment, in fashion, in sports, in different countries. I'm Romanian. I've lived in Spain, started my career there, and now I am in Germany. And the reason why I'm in Germany is because I've been also in my last role marketing director for accessories for Puma. So as I always love to tell the joke, I started at Disney and I ended at Puma. Not bad, 20 years in between. And so here I am as a founder now. And that's a whole different journey that I'm on right now.
And you're on you're on like this EU journey, right? Like Romanian, Spain, Germany. I mean, it's unbelievable. All right. So tell them how we met. Like, tell our listeners and viewers how we met, because this is a unique story. And I was on her podcast almost 2 years ago now, I think. Yeah. And she shocked me with this story, but I want her to share it again.
Yeah, well, about 20 years plus ago, when I started my career, I started my career at Disney. That was my first job. And when I was a teeny tiny young marketing aspiring assistant with no full-time role.
Yes, temping basically, right? Temping,
I know, I was studying and being an intern and then an assistant.
Intern, yes.
Yeah, I was kind of dipping my toes into everything that has to do with the amazing world of Disney storytelling. Mm-hmm. And my bosses in Spain, they were traveling to the US, meeting all of the top-notch, executives at Disney, and one of them being Mr. Jim Fielding. And so I heard early on in my career about this godlike figure, Jim Fielding at Disney in Burbank, who eventually came to visit us one day in Spain, in Madrid. And I was kind of like shy in a corner. I don't know if I said hi. I don't remember. I was too shy to worried about making eye contact. But for some reason, this godlike figure just kind of accompanied me along the way in my career. And I've seen Jim going from Disney to DreamWorks and then Claire's and all the other places that he's been. And, what amazing career. I've always kind of followed you from afar, and we've never, ever been in contact until 2 years ago when I reached out for the podcast and I told you the story, as in I've known you for 20 years, but you don't know who
I
I
know,
am.
and
And
you told me I stopped in a hallway or something, right? Like
yeah,
I
I think
said
so.
hello to you. Yeah, like it's so like, and I remember on the podcast you were like, you stopped, and I thought, oh my god, did I say something horrible? Like literally, my first inclination was like, please tell me I was kind.
You're always
Yeah,
kind. You're
and
always
I was,
kind. But I think the most interesting part is that, like when I started my career, being around someone like you was such a big
mm,
deal for me. And like looking into the people and the mentors that you want to learn from.
mm-hmm,
You have all those different figures that you are kind of absorbing information and knowledge from, and you are one of those people. And I've
mm,
followed you throughout your career until 2 years ago. We started becoming also friends, which is great.
yes, yes. I mean, and I I love this story on so many levels because our relationship has evolved now, and I
Mhm.
think there's such a mutual admiration and respect. And I loved what you were doing at Puma, and I watched you make this leap literally at the same time I was making the leap
Mhm.
from corporate to solopreneur or entrepreneurship, whatever we call what we're doing. And your I mean your LinkedIn post, like the way you were sharing the story and what you did with your website and all that. And I think we have that mutual storytelling gene probably from the Disney days,
Disney.
and full credit to Disney. We know how to tell a story. And um but we also had that lifelong learning and constantly curious gene, and we were willing to experiment and take risks. And
Mm.
I love where we are now. Like that's I think that's why I was so excited for this episode. And just for our listeners and viewers to really share the journey. You and I talk about all the time, the journey, like
Yeah.
even when we're just texting to each other and typing, it's like the journey. So let's dive into the journey. To her credit, everything she said about herself, she's also a wife and a mother. Like, let's be clear, she's like a full-fledged human being with a lot of things pulling at her. So I think the first question, Juana, is why now? Like, what made you decide it was time? You were having an incredible corporate career, and you could have
Mhm.
stayed and you could have grown there, or you could have gone to another company. But like, why now? Like, why did now feel like the leap time for you?
Yeah. There were two angles to the leap. One was a purely professional angle, which was, I looked at it very pragmatically and thought,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I've been in this game for 20 years, have jumped from one corporate to the other, or from one
Right.
big brand to another. The one brand that I've never ever thought about building is my own. Maybe it's time to look into
Mm-hmm.
that. Considering that I'm 43, I have at least 25 years ahead of me, maybe even
Yes.
more. I don't know if
Yeah.
health is getting better,
Yeah.
technology is getting better. We're going
Yeah.
to be working until we die. And so the
Yeah.
question was,
Yeah.
what will I do for the next 25 years? You know that I love, that I'm motivated by, that I will
Mm-hmm.
enjoy doing, and that
Mm-hmm.
I can keep growing without kind of any ceilings on top that I need to break all the time because I'm a woman, and because I work in a corporate, and because there's systems. And mind you, it's absolutely
Mm-hmm.
normal that we have
Such a
systems,
point.
but at some point maybe you want to do more, right? And there was the question of like, what do I want to do more that I haven't done in the construct of a corporate career during 20
Yeah.
years. And there wasn't a lot that I felt motivated or compelled to do for another 25 years at least, right?
Yes.
So it felt like, okay, I need to look into another area, or another type of project that will
Mm-hmm.
create that motivation for me. And then the other angle was the huge white space that I was seeing inside, the different companies that I've worked, but not only the companies that I've worked for, also other companies that I was working with as partners, collaborators of any kind. And in general, as I was looking at the marketing landscape, I saw this huge white space with regards to what brand positioning should look like, which in my mind started to kind of form this idea of you shouldn't look for a distinct positioning or a different positioning or an original positioning. You should be looking for an unmatched positioning. And there's another story about like how I came to the word. It's a whole different other story, but what I realized, because I've always been this person of connecting the dots, right? From my early career at Disney, which was all about brand building and storytelling and brand ecosystems, to my last role at Puma, which was all about brand power, product icons, partnerships. The white space that I was saying was that everyone in the industry was talking about, oh, you have to be distinct, you have to be original, you have to be different. And it felt like that sort of language was not the right language in my mind. It felt that it created an unnecessary pressure, because it created a comparison versus your positioning and others positioning. So you have to be original versus everyone else, you have to be different than anyone else, you have to be distinctive versus your competition. Whereas I think for us as humans, but also for us as brands, what we need to first and foremost look is inside of us, who we are as people, as brands, what our resources, what is our story, what makes us unmatched, and start with that, not looking outside at benchmarks, but looking inside first and building from there. And somehow intuitively, I've done that throughout my career. Sometimes a little bit too early, probably. I was maybe too early for my time in some cases. I've ruffled some feathers along the way, but it's always been my approach, that what you have is the best. And you have to build from that with confidence that your brand stands tall. And then, of course, you need to be relevant. That's another lever. But you shouldn't be looking too much at the competition, so that you can stay true to your authenticity and to your own brand story.
Yeah, no, I mean, oh my gosh. I mean, there is like gold in everything you just said. And it's interesting because some of the work that you've helped me with was helping me get to that gold, right? And I was doing too much outside. To your point, I was comparing too much outside. And I think our friendship and our professional relationship, like the directness we have with each other, I so appreciate, because you were like, no, that's not you. Like, no, like, and you were, and I love that. Like, you just kept telling me, no, like, that's not it. That's not it. And I was like, oh, okay. No, you're right. You're right. But I found, and one of the questions I was thinking about while you were talking is like, the question is like, what's been the hardest thing about making this transition? And I'll just say, to kick it off, I've had a hard time prioritizing and focusing on myself, because I spent so long focusing on other people's brands, right? Like, and I remember you and I said, I'm like, okay, we did it for Disney Princess, we did it for Mickey Mouse, I did it for DreamWorks Trolls. Why am I struggling so much doing
How hard
this
can it be,
for
right?
Jim Fielding? Right. I'm like, yeah, like if we could sell those damn troll dolls, right? Like, and I mean, at Disney, like I love Disney to death, but nothing we were selling is a basic need. Like we were pushing princess dolls and Wall-E and all of those things we were pushing, and I loved it, but it wasn't a basic need. And I was struggling with like getting to the core of me, of getting to my own brand. Like I had a reputation, I had a credibility in the industry. Like I had those words, but I didn't really know what my brand was. And honestly, for my listeners and viewers, a lot of the calls Juana and I had, she pushed me to get to my brand. For sure, you push. But what has been the hardest for you making that transition? Like
The
getting to
same.
your, yeah.
Exactly the same.
Yeah.
I mean, That is the hardest thing, honestly,
Yeah.
in doing the transition from corporate to being your own boss.
Yeah.
Um, and I think it's a very individual journey that we all go through
Mm-hmm.
at some stage of our careers, of our lives, without trying to go too deep on the psychological road of
Right.
what is happening.
Yeah.
but it's like we accumulate so much drama, so much trauma, so many lived experiences along the way, and all
Mm,
of those things are like layers and layers of the onion that is like
mm-hmm.
the center, the core of who you are. And since childhood, you start adding more and more
Mm,
to that core until you don't recognize it. Maybe you don't even know who you were
mm,
supposed to be in the first place, right? So from
yeah.
family conditioning, cultural conditioning, society conditioning, you work in
Mm,
a corporate environment, there's all
yeah.
sorts of
The
rules.
system, right? The
Yeah,
systems you talked about that have been like molding you.
yeah.
Yeah. No, I love. I mean, what you're bringing up is the layers of the onion. I mean, what you and I talk about often is they're blockers, right? I mean,
Yeah.
those layers, like my my experience and what I had built my quote career on was actually a complete inhibitor and blocker for me being able to fully do what I wanted to do. Like I had the
Mm.
vision of what I wanted to do, but I think the way that I had been, and to your point, it goes back to childhood traumas and dramas and everything, just the way I'd been conditioned, the way I'd been socialized, and then the way we had been taught, particularly Disney. I mean, again, I have so much respect for Disney, but we were conditioned
Mhm.
and I think one of the first professional job you take outside of Disney, you realize you have to go through like a Disney deprogramming because you can't play the Disney playbook anywhere else. Like you can't. Like it
Do you
like
know how long I lasted in my job, my first job after
which
Disney?
one? How long? No, I don't know this
1 month.
story. Where was that? What company was that?
I mean, honestly, I never talk about this because it
No.
was so traumatic. It was a big company.
Yeah,
I
okay. What
won't
make you
say which
say? Yeah,
one.
I was
I
gonna
won't
say
say
what make
which
you
one, but it was an
1 month.
outdoor big
Okay,
company.
1 month.
1 month because it was so bad. I mean, I had left Disney because there was just no headcount and I couldn't grow. After 4 years, I was still in
Hmm.
my 20s. And so it was like very early days of my career. I felt like I needed to move on
Right, right,
reluctantly because I love Disney. I would have never, ever
right,
left
right.
potentially.
Yeah,
But
for
thank God I
sure.
did because it put me on a different path to where I am right now. But yeah, I took that opportunity and I lasted 1 month because it was so terrible. And
Okay, I'm not going to make you
thankfully,
tell us what, but did you self-edit or did they edit you? It's
I
okay.
self-edited
Yeah.
myself because thankfully I could jump to another one right after because I had met someone that rescued me from that from that
Oh,
thing. And
that
so
is huge. That is huge. Like,
yeah.
no, it's so funny because people throw around imposter syndrome, right? Like I feel like everybody talks about imposter syndrome, but my job after Disney was CEO of Claire's.
That's
And
not bad.
I, right, like fail forward, right? But
Yeah.
I mean, most people know. I think if they're following, most people know why I left Disney. Because to your point, I would still be at Disney today if I had had a
Hmm.
better leadership situation. Like I was managed incorrectly, and that's why I self-edited from Disney. But I I never really felt imposter syndrome until I showed up at Claire's as the CEO and was like basically sitting in these meetings and sitting in my office in just full panic mode because I was like, oh my God, what did I do? Right. Like what, like and I had interviewed. I mean, that process to become a CEO was like 6, 7 months of interviews. It's not like this was a surprise. And I had interviewed well, and I went back to all the stuff I talked about in the interview, but I those first 3 or 4 months in Claire's, I was pedaling and paddling as fast as I could, because I had to acknowledge to myself, I never really acknowledged it externally, but I had to acknowledge to myself, I had a lot to learn quickly, and that I couldn't take. There was pieces of Disney you could take, of course, but I could not take the Disney playbook writ large and just say, okay, I'm going to do it at Claire's now.
Of course.
Yeah. And to me, I mean, I lasted a little over 2 years. I self-edited from that one too. So many things happened in my personal life. My dad passed away in that tenure, all of that stuff. But I knew, similar to you, it took you a month. It took me 2 years. I was like, I'm in the wrong place. Like, and literally the quote that's attributed to Einstein, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results, was how I would describe my time at Claire's. And I loved the people. I loved that brand. I loved the opportunity. It was hard to admit, but I wasn't the right leader for that situation. Like that ownership, that board structure, all of that kind of stuff. But again, I'm grateful for that experience, and it helped me. I use stuff from that all the time, but that was part of like the de-cleansing of Disney, right? Like I had to, and then ironically, the next job I went to was DreamWorks, which was filled with a bunch of former Disney people, but we all kind of held hands and said, we loved our time at Disney, but now we're at DreamWorks. How are we going to do this differently? Like we were very clear about that. Even, the leader, Jeffrey Katzenberg, who was Disney. Yeah. Even he would say, this is DreamWorks, that's Disney. And ironically, as you know, they were across the street from each other. Like I could see my old office
just
from
like
my new office.
Now in between Puma and Adidas. Like I see Adidas over there and Puma is over there.
That is so funny. Yeah, like I would sit in my office and see my old office window. Yeah. But it was in my head. I was constantly editing and filtering and saying, okay, take that learning, but then how do you twist it for this new environment? Because, no one does it like Disney, right? But
no. And it's very hard to go from, and in my case, it was the very first job I've ever had. Yes. How do you go from the best job in the world to anything? It's just like it's only like a road downwards. It's let down. There,
it's everything's everything's a letdown. No, I mean it is, but then you kind of grow up and you're like, okay, I'm going to find the nuggets and the pearls of this situation, because every company has a unique culture. It has a unique systems, to your point. It has unique stories. It has its moment, and you have to do that. You have to do that cleansing. And I hired, by the way, and I'm not going to use names, I hired former Disney people at my new companies who failed, like who could not make the adjustment, they were just so Disney and so programmed that they literally could not learn new ways or learn how to do it.
What is funny is what you said, that you kind of like grow up from, you have to grow up from one place to another. I actually find, because my story is a little different. I've kind of moved horizontally a lot more than upwards. Yeah. Probably a woman thing, Eastern European thing. Also, I felt like I need to know a lot before I even thought about going, whatever. But I will say that I feel like I've grown up, really grown up in the last 12 months since I've been on my own. More than I've ever done it over the last 15 to 16 years. I think that the graduation is finally happening now. Whereas I think that, and I'll openly say this, I think that by moving so much from global brand to global brand to global brand and being in, in
Mm,
great positions, in big roles with teams and
mm-hmm,
everything, you get a little bit spoiled. And I
mm,
think it's really hard to actually grow up and see what the world is all about when you
mm-hmm.
have some responsibility but not all of the
The full,
responsibility.
right,
It's
right.
like, oh,
That's an
this is my
interesting point.
tiny little part of the puzzle. I can
Mm-hmm,
paddle, but it's because of the collective that we're moving forward. It's not like I'm changing the
mm-hmm,
game. And I think
mm,
it, for self kind of resilient people and self
mm-hmm,
motivating people, this is enough to kind of get you going. For some other people, it's totally not enough, and they're kind
mm,
of just like staying in that little space that they have. And I will say that as
yeah,
much as I have seen myself as a self motivating person always and very resilient, I have not been as honest with myself and as much of an adult
yes, yes,
than
yes.
I've ever been.
No, I mean, your honesty and self awareness and vulnerability are so inspiring and such a role model for everybody. And I I love what you said because some people really are comfortable being a cog in the machine, right?
Yeah.
Like being playing their part, like however big or small that part is, but like being kind of siloed and being kind of like I'm a marketing person or I'm a branding person or I'm a category person and I I think when you do go off on your own and all of a sudden there's nobody else to fall back on except yourself. I think we all
Yeah.
grow. I love that you say you've kind of become an adult now. I have been telling people I feel like the last 2.5 years, I'm the most authentic version of myself I've ever
Mm.
been, for
Yeah.
sure. It does not mean I didn't love what I did. And I feel like I always have to tell that story, like, because I loved the people I worked with, and I'm so
Mm.
proud of what we did at Disney and DreamWorks. And I was so present and in the moment. But with the benefit of hindsight, I'm a I actually think I'm a more fulfilled person. I'm a more honest person. And again, I'm the most authentic version of myself being what I'm doing right now. And it
Mm.
does not mean, as you and I were talking before we started recording, that I don't have days of panic and days of, oh my God, what did I do? Right. And you get a call from a recruiter and you think, oh, maybe I should go back to corporate, right? Like there's always these moments. But when I do step back and kind of do my self review, I do feel like I feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing right now. And
Yeah, and
that
I will add
but
to
it's not
what we were
easy.
saying. Sorry, go ahead.
It's not easy. No,
No,
you.
it's going back to that conversation about the onion and the layers, right? And
Mm-hmm,
the fact and the matter is that we are such complex beings, right?
mm-hmm.
As marketeers, as leaders, as individuals, and we're not just one thing. And I think what you said before about, some people love being a clog in the system, some people don't. I
Mm-hmm.
think you and I are of the second category, hence why we self-edited ourselves, right? From
Yes. Yes.
but the most important thing is, and I think this is the process that I'm on to learning, is to how to extract all of the benefits of all the different areas of who I am and put them
Mm-hmm.
to the service of what I'm doing now. Because I think
Yes.
one of the sort of the frustrations that I've always had is that your job title tells you to do just that one little thing, but you
Yes.
love 10 other things that you're probably very good at. And for whatever reason, you're doing just that one little bit. And there is not a system that allows you to actually go wider and deeper into something or add more things. It's like
Yes.
and the bigger the company, the smaller the part you play. And so I think that for people that are, you know, sort of multi passionates as we are, and we love all
Yes.
sorts of different things, I actually see entrepreneurship as the only option. I don't
Yeah.
think, and I get, calls from recruiters from time and time
Of
again. And,
course.
and, I look at the paycheck and I'm like, oh,
I
I don't know
know.
if I'm going to be able to make that again, but at the same time, the price you pay for accepting that is actually
Hmm.
uh, allowing yourself to be defined by one single thing for a long time.
Mm.
And I
Amen.
think that's the
Amen.
thing that I can't, like I'm not able to do anymore. And with
No,
all
you,
respect and love for
yeah.
everyone who's doing it, because I've loved that part of my career.
Yeah, yeah. And I have so much respect for people who that's their authenticity, right? That's their story. I think you and I and many other people that we know and probably who follow us, we color outside the lines, to your point, right? Like
A bit too much.
a bit too much, and we got our hands slapped. I mean, we like when you were in corporate, like I would get a lot of feedback about, like you'd get these weird feedbacks like, you know, you're a bull in a china shop, right? Or you're too much of a break it thinker, or you're, um, or you'd come back from a meeting and somebody would say, Fielding overstepped his role, right? Like your boss would call and be like, "What did you do?" And I'd be like, I don't know what I did." But, but again, I think we were both kind of like chafing at it, right? Because we didn't.
Mhm.
I mean, that's the thing. Even now, you and I have talked about this. It's so funny because I call it like the cocktail party chatter, right? So like when you go to a cocktail party, even if it's at a friend's house or it's with people unfortunately, in Western civilization, most things people ask is like, what do you do for a living? Right. And it was much easier to say, I'm an executive at Disney. I'm an executive at
Oh,
DreamWorks, because they immediately, for you, I'm an executive at Puma, right? I'm in marketing at Puma. Instantly, it changes, right? The mood
mm,
changes. Now I'm like, I'm an executive coach, podcast host. I wrote a book. I'm a I'm a social. I write on LinkedIn every day, right? Like it takes longer, and you
yeah.
see their eyes glaze over, right? And so
Mhm.
you and I have talked about this. I'm like, I'm humble enough to not be like I'm a trusted authority, right? Like, but I literally now am saying, and part of our conversations, it's like I have a company, I have my own company, I have a brand, right? And
Mhm.
I'm I'm working on my own brand, and I'm helping other people with their brands, right? But it's easier to enter the cocktail party or a new situation and say I'm an executive at Disney, because they instantly put you in a category. Like you can see, and they're like, "Oh, that's the most amazing place. That must be the best job you've ever had." Like, "Oh my God, how did you get that job?" When you say I have my own company, or I'm an entrepreneur, or in my case, I work from home, right? They're kind of like, "Oh, you're retired." You and I talked about that. In my case, they say, "Oh, I thought you were retired." And then I'm like, by the way, I'm working harder now than I've ever
Than
worked,
ever.
ever. I am not retired. And I think, oh my God, I got to go back and post more on LinkedIn. They think I'm retired. They think the world, the world has put this label on me. But you and I've talked about it. I don't want to only be one thing. I love being a coach. I love being a writer. I love being a podcast host. I don't want to only do one thing, right? I want to be this multi-slash thing now, because after, for me, 35 years in corporate, I couldn't do that. Like
Mm,
in corporate, you had to be, even when I got to be at the president level, like you're still the president of a
yeah.
function, like of a group. Like you still have very clearly defined guardrails. Um,
Yeah.
but that it just makes me laugh, because when you're talking about that, and again, I think that was part of my lack of authenticity. I was fighting against it my entire career, fighting, learning, but fighting against it. And I didn't even really know what it was called. Now, again, with hindsight, I'm like, oh, I should have done this 10 years ago. I should have gone out on my own 10 years ago.
It's never
But
too late, I would say.
I
It's never
know.
too
And
late.
I'm with you. I don't think I'm ever going to be retired. I'm so anti that word. I'll shift gears. I'll work differently. Like I come up with all these other synonyms for retirement. I don't think I'm ever going to stop because of have that zest for learning and being constantly curious.
Yeah.
And every time the world changes, I want to figure out how. We were talking about the word pivot, like I want to figure out how to pivot. So, okay, we talked about what was hardest. What's been your biggest surprise in the last 12 months? Like, what surprised you? I think I know part of this, but.
I mean, the biggest surprise, and I will say that I've only turned the corner on this very, very recently, as
Mm-hmm.
recent as a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
So it's very new and raw still.
Yeah. Yeah.
The most surprising thing has been how hard it is to figure out who you are and what you actually want to do.
Yes.
It sounds so freaking simple, but it's been the hardest thing ever because and I feel like this is my life's pattern, growing up in Eastern Europe and being told you need to act in a certain way, dress in a
Yeah.
certain way, learn in a certain way, become the best at everything and fit in, always fit in.
Mm-hmm.
I and also being a very strategy driven person,
Yeah.
my brain is half strategy, half creativity.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I focus too much on strategy. I started with strategy, right? I
Mm-hmm.
left my corporate role and I thought, okay, well, this is what I want to do. And this is, unmatched. And this is what it means. And the whole
Mm-hmm.
strategy is there. And I'm going to go full on the strategy and build on the
Mm-hmm.
strategy. And to my huge surprise, I realized that actually the smartest way would have been to just take some time to figure out who I really am outside the construct,
Yes.
figure out what I love to do outside of the
Mm-hmm.
construct of 20 plus years of doing things
Yes.
in one certain
Yes.
way, spend more time just creatively, just playing, being free, unattached
Mm-hmm.
to anything that I used to know, detox more, and then start considering to build
Yes.
from there.
Yes.
I mean, luckily, what I initially started with the strategy didn't end up being completely off of what I want to do. It's still aligned, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
it's still me, it comes from me. But in the way that I started to build it, I think that I lacked the joy and the play, what
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting back now. And just a
Mm-hmm.
few weeks ago, out of nowhere, I got this kind of like divine intervention, sort of like, girl, it's enough. You have to now just do what you love and just make it feel as play.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes against everything that I've ever been taught. It goes
Mm-hmm.
against of my strategy,
How you were brought up, for
strategic,
sure.
yeah, strategic driven mindset. It goes
Mm-hmm.
against of, like my KPIs for the year, revenue, whatever it is that I have set for myself as goals at the beginning.
Yes.
But it has given me way more return on investment than, being stuck in a place that wasn't really exactly how I wanted to do things.
And wasn't maximizing you. Like, I know that
Yeah.
about you, right? Like, they weren't, even though you were respected, same with me, respected, did a good job, like earned your paycheck. I mean, there's no doubt we didn't earn our
Mhm.
paycheck and overperform. They really weren't bringing out the best of us. They weren't really getting the best of us. And I remember watching one of your posts you did when you did that speech. You got that, I think it was a keynote, right? Or like you were on a big stage. And what a moment that was for you. I mean, I was so happy for you. But again, you shared the learnings of what getting that somebody validated you and said, we want you to talk about this journey, right? Because of
Mhm.
course, you and I, we're human beings. We seek external validation. We do. Like,
Yeah.
and I laughing so hard about KPIs because I'm working on my 2026 KPIs, right? Like I have to turn them in to myself, evidently, because there's no one else to turn them into. But on
I
my
love
on
it.
my to-do list, I'm writing down like my qualitative and quantitative goals. And I was looking at 2025, and the world changed so much in 2025 that I'm not achieving all my goals I set in 2025 financially or qualitatively or quantitatively. So my review on myself is going to be quite interesting, right? Yeah, exactly. I might be falling behind, using the Disney lingo. I
Yeah.
might be meeting expectations in some places, but I'm not leading the way. I'm
It's
not.
not it's not 110%, is it?
No, I'm not going to get a great. I'm not going to get a great bonus this year.
No. Okay.
But but yeah, it's so funny because I hit end of September, beginning of October, and I'm like, okay, got to set some goals. Like, what's 2026 going to look like? Um, and I told you before we got on, I mean, I guess I can say because it's just when this airing, but I just landed my TEDx talk, right?
Yay.
And that was a 2025 goal, right? And um, 85 applications later, and 85 no's, and I have all the emails. I've landed, my first TEDx talk, but that now becomes a 2020, so I guess I can call that I achieved it, even though the actual event's in 2026. But it is funny because that deprogramming you're talking about, and again, going all the way back to our childhood, you growing up Eastern European and all the expectations of being a good little girl in Romania, me growing up as a Midwestern boy who knew he was gay and struggling with all those expectations and what a little boy was supposed to be. For me in the entrepreneurial journey, you have to find ways to celebrate those milestones, and you have to take a moment and kind of pat yourself on the back, because in corporate, you did get pats. You got pats on the back. I got pats on the back. There was somebody, like a boss or a structure or a system or a review process or goal setting process that was about validation. And as an entrepreneur, you have to validate yourself. You have to, and I had to learn, I'm still learning that. I'm
I
not
have a
great at
good
it.
example, actually.
Okay, good, because I'm not great at it.
I have a really good example because I'm actually, and I can say this because this is recorded and it won't go live before, but tomorrow I'm launching a newsletter article about Bad Bunny being the artist headlining the halftime Super Bowl
Performer,
show.
yeah.
And
Ooh, I can't wait to read that.
it's going to be a good one, not because I wrote it, but because I think the learning that I'm getting from him is, you see, you saying that the world is changing, and I think it's true, but there's a lot of positives about how the world is changing as well. We used to, you and I, we were brought up and we started functioning in the world of fitting in, right? And the more you had, the more you were able to fit in, the more validation you would get. The world is changing now towards a different kind of model that I think works much better, which is the more you go inwards into who you are, into your unmatched self, and find that unmatched positioning, and you're doing it with joy and passion, the more the world just follows. And I think Bad Bunny is such a great example. I love to call him
Huge.
Benito, because we're
Yeah.
friends, and Benito is I love Benito. I work on Benito's music all the time here in the office, so we're friends. But the point is that I actually think that something might have happened, a couple of years ago before he launched his last album, which was very much going deep into his Puerto Rican roots. And literally, he just went inwards and said, okay, I'm going to go back to Puerto Rico. I don't want to go anywhere. I'm going to build from there towards the world. He did a residency of 31 shows only in Puerto Rico. He didn't go anywhere else in the world. He said that he wasn't going to do any concerts in the US. He literally, what he actually was able to do is go so deep into who he is. Like, I'm getting chills by thinking about this.
No, it's amazing.
That he created the demand by just literally the world saying that there's a scarcity of Bad Bunny in the world, and he's only available in Puerto Rico. So everyone just went to Puerto Rico. He created more than $300 million in direct impact on the Puerto Rican economy. Because he was bringing everything there, and he wants to basically use his roots in Puerto Rico as the main sort of the basis of his IP, right? And so what's the outcome? What's the outcome of this strategy? I mean, not a lot of artists actually are able to do that, or a lot of brands. It's very tricky and risky. But if you look at the upsides, what has happened? He is the artist headlining the
Super
halftime
Bowl.
show.
Yeah.
The
Yes.
first artist in history to sing solely in Spanish, right?
Spanish.
In an American, huge American stage, and that's huge, right? Plus, he's getting, I mean, incredible brand deals and incredible visibility and support, like globally, right? And he's one of the most sought after artists because he's been able to do that. Would he have done what we have done, of like trying to fit in and be like, okay, this is what the industry is saying that I should be doing, and I need to have concerts here and there and everywhere in Europe and travel, and be like, no, I need to be me. So he's created the most him album ever. And I think this is such a learning for us as humans, but also as brands, because it used to be that, yes, you had to fit in order to reach the masses, because there were, like molds and templates and whatever, and we needed to follow those things. It doesn't work anymore because attention is so fragmented. It doesn't work in our space as marketeers and brand builders and leaders. It doesn't work in the space of, brand building a large as brands. Consumers are just fed up with so much information, social media content, everything, that the more you go inward and the more weird and the more you and unmatched you are, the more people are going to pay attention.
And I love this story is so good. I cannot wait for the article, because he embraced his authenticity, to your point. He embraced his story, his core story, his foundation, and the community. He drew the community to him, right? And it's interesting. I'm not telling you how to write your article, but when I was thinking about it, I thought about the last two Super Bowl performers before Bad Bunny, Rihanna and Kendrick Lamar, and now Bad Bunny. And if you take that tripod, if you will, Rihanna, who performed pregnant, if you remember, right? We didn't know she was pregnant, but she performed pregnant. Barbados native, right? In a healthy relationship, having children. Kendrick Lamar, who I love, Kendrick Lamar being, living in LA so long, who put on an authentic Kendrick Lamar show last year, right? And was not for everybody. So much so that I loved the halftime show that he did so much that I went to his concert here in Atlanta, which was like a 3-hour extravaganza. And I would have never gone to a Kendrick Lamar concert if it had not been for the Super Bowl, to your point. But the same thing you're saying with Bad Bunny, and I think Bad Bunny is the best example of the three for sure. But I now listen to Kendrick Lamar music and have gone back to the old albums and everything else. And like I said, paid to go to the concert because of what he did at that Super Bowl. And I think the one point you made about Bad Bunny is so much like, how dare he do a global tour and not include the United States, right? Like the United States people, like we're all like the Americans, the whole ethnocentricity of America are like, how dare he, right?
Yeah.
What do you mean he can do a global tour and not have a US stop? And the fact that his only US stop is only the biggest show on earth is just so full circle. I think you're so right. But it's been a multi-year, to your point, thing, right? It's not like he woke up 6 months ago and said, I think I should do the Super Bowl, right? And by the way, he built the community, and then the community came to him. And
I think he was always authentic, right? He was always authentic, but it wasn't until the last album that he said, you know what, F everyone. I'm just going to go back to Puerto Rico and do whatever I want.
And I'm going to do an entire album in Spanish. And even if you don't, here's the thing, even if you don't speak or understand Spanish, you love the album because you understand he's telling you stories and you understand his passion. And you know what? I applaud the NFL. I applaud Apple, who's the sponsor of the halftime. Jay-Z, the producer, because the backlash has started already here in
I
lovely
know. And you
America,
know who
right?
was the other contender, right? Do you know who the other one was?
It was, well, there was rumors about Adele and Taylor Swift,
Taylor
right?
Swift, yeah, Taylor
Yes.
Swift, because she started also sharing
Hmm.
Easter eggs on her famous podcast with her boyfriend Travis
Yes,
when they
yes.
did a couple of months
Fiance
ago.
now. Fiance, yes.
Exactly. And so, like, we knew that potentially she might be headlining,
Hmm.
but apparently they didn't agree on whatever terms. And,
Right,
I think it's such, I mean, both would have been amazing performances,
right,
but I think that
right.
this choice is really a historic one. And I think
Historic.
yeah,
And
I think it's going to be
people
big.
are going to watch, simply for
Yeah.
that. I mean, non-football fans, non-American football fans will watch the Super Bowl, or will only, and they might tune in 5 minutes before and 5 minutes after, and that's fine. And I think the NFL and Apple and everybody knows that, right? And
Yeah.
it's funny because I started talking to my friends. We're all so excited about it. But I also, because they always have guests. And I'm like, it's going to be interesting to see who his guests are, right? It's going to
Yeah.
be interesting to see who he brings out with him. It's almost like a parlor game now of like, it's obviously Bad Bunny, but who else is going to pop up?
Mhm.
Um, I think, I think, I think it's going to be fascinating. Like the way, again, Kendrick Lamar had SZA and Serena Williams and,
Yeah.
like these little cameos, basically. It'll be
Mhm.
interesting to see how it pops up. I love that story. All right. Well, I'm watching our time. I could talk to you for hours,
Well,
but
are
I
we
want
done
to.
already?
No, no, no.
No.
I
I
know. I
want to
want to
keep
respect.
going.
I know. I want to respect our listeners and our viewers. But I
What, they don't
do.
want to spend 2 hours
I
listening to
know.
us?
Like
I
they're
don't
like,
get
wait
it.
a minute. Wait a minute. These two are like just having coffee. I'm over here drinking my coffee and my drink. I'm like, yeah, cool. But I want you to end because we've talked about so much stuff. But I always ask my guests on Jim Fielding and Friends. First off, I want them to know where to contact you. So make sure, how do we find Juana, which we'll put in the show notes and all that too. But I want you to leave like with one piece of advice that you want these listeners and viewers to have. I want you to have the so-called last word.
Well, I will say what everyone who knows me says, which is, you again? Because you're everywhere. So they can find me everywhere, annoyingly enough, for a lot of people that follow
Yes.
me or know me. They can find me everywhere and unmatched as well. But I will say this. Listen, the world is a very crazy place. As
Mm-hmm.
humans, it's scary most of the times, exciting some other times.
Mm-hmm.
As brands and brand builders, I think it's overwhelming and tiring to be online, to try to build a brand authentically, watching our revenue and KPIs. But at the same time, I'm an optimist. I'm an optimist. I observe what is happening in the world, and I am a human curator. I like to say, I like to connect the dots a lot. And
Mm.
what I'm observing is the world is changing so rapidly, but there is a positive side to it, which is what we just said, basically
Mm-hmm.
the Benito example.
Mm.
There is so much change with regards to what real authenticity actually means. And I know that we're using the word authenticity quite a lot and it's become cliche. That's why I love my unmatched word, because
Yes.
it really signifies, that what you should be looking for. How do you even know if you're authentic or not? It's just so hard to say, oh, I'm authentic or not. It's the way that I like to say it is, be faithful to your
Mm.
unmatched, magic positioning, essence. That's how I like to say it, brand essence. Be faithful and devoted to that brand essence so that you can extract that unmatched potential and share it with the world in the best way possible, by
Mm.
having fun with it, like Bad Bunny does, like you and I do. Have fun with what you're doing. Stay true and devoted to who you are, because that's really what the world needs today. We don't need in the world another, watered down version of someone else. We don't. We have enough, and the
Mm.
world is crazy enough as it is. We want people to be inspired by, to look up to follow to Puerto Rico and go have fun with them.
Yes. Yes.
That's what the world needs. We need positivity. We need cool people that do cool stuff that we can have fun with. When it
Hmm.
comes to the brand world as well, and as humans, just like that devotion to staying true to who we are is beyond anything else right now. And I
Mm.
think that's what we owe the world, in our lives and in
Oh
in
my
our
God.
careers.
Okay. That was a mic drop moment. I can't wait. I can't wait for that little snippet.
Yeah.
Thank you. I mean, thank you so much for doing this. Thank you for being you. Thank you for challenging and supporting me, because I can't imagine my life right now without you in it and poking me in the nice ways that you poke me. I like that. And it is such an honor and a pleasure to spend time with you in community, in conversation, but just to watch your journey. And I don't compare myself, because we don't compare, but I try to learn from your journey and other people in our lives' journey. And, those days when I'm down, um, and we have down days for sure.
Just call me.
Yeah, I just ping you and say, please tell me I'm on the right path. And I know that you're on the right path. We are both exactly doing what we're supposed to be doing right now. And
Wow.
the world, I thank God for you, and thank God for the world. And yeah, and I think you have to figure out how to get to San Francisco for Super Bowl. Like,
I
I think
think
you have
I'm
to.
waiting for Benito to call me and be
Yeah,
like,
I was
okay,
like,
come,
Benito, okay, I'll get
come.
this out sooner, and we'll make sure
Yeah.
we translate it into Spanish and send it
I mean,
to Puerto
honestly, there's
Rico.
so many
Yeah.
opportunities, Jim. I mean, I'm sitting here by Adidas. Adidas is the main, collab
Yes.
partner, the shoes. And
Yes.
there's so many, I mean,
Apple, you've got
shout
Apple
out to everyone
connections.
who's
Yeah.
going. I'm just
Apple, Puma,
saying.
Adidas, hashtag get unmatched to San Francisco.
Yeah, get
Hashtag.
Juana
There
to
you
see
go.
Benito because I just love him. But listen, also thank you for having me, and I'll be
Of
like,
course.
you've inspired me for more than 20 years. Without you
Ah,
knowing, you've been there in my life, and so it's just such an honor to be on your podcast and seeing
oh
you
my
being you. I mean,
God.
that's really the honor.
I can't wait to get this out in the world. Thank you, my friend. We will talk soon. Have a great
Bye.
day. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us today. If you enjoyed this show, make sure you leave a review, subscribe, and follow us on your favorite podcast platform. We appreciate you and look forward to seeing you soon.
Choose who we love. Nobody's letting